probably have, okay, there's people still joining, I think. We had something close to 50 people RSVP. I'm afraid of attrition because it's been an extremely busy week of midterms.
Yeah.
So we may have a bit less than that. So welcome everyone, and thank you very much for coming today. We've got a great agenda. We're going to first hear from Dean Evans, updates about the school, and then we're going to do our focus groups. Turns out our reservation system didn't quite gel with the Zoom structure, so we're going to be randomly assigning people to the breakout rooms today for the purpose of the focus groups. For those, I'm going to ask you all to sort of elect or select a moderator for your group and a rapporteur. And the rapporteur is a note taker who will then report out in our whole session once we close the focus groups and come back together. So just keep that in mind in case I forget to mention it. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dean Evans and have you come on and speak to everyone.
Hi, everyone. So I'm seeing some live shots and I'm seeing some just with their names and sort of a still picture. So if you can come so I can just see you, that'd be great. I miss not seeing the students. So good afternoon. I hope everybody is doing well. And I'm here to just let you know that we're thinking about you, that we're here, that we've got things planned in the plans for the spring. And that I just wanted to have an opportunity for you to ask me any questions you might have or express any concerns that you might have about the school. So what we're doing now is we're working with the faculty on establishing the scheduling, not only for the spring, which is pretty much finalized, but also for the fall in terms of the courses, who's going to teach them, the times, etc. But we're also getting feedback from the students and the faculty of how this semester is going, both academically and then just overview in terms of how we're doing about creating a community. So I think academically, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to give us feedback on that. How we're really trying to grow a community in this very difficult platforms that we're in is it's a challenge. And so we're trying different things, to see if it would work. And we would really like suggestions about other things we can do so that you all feel like you're part of a larger living dynamic school. And that's hard to do when I can't see you or you're not in the building and we can't bump into each other, etc. So we've tried very hard. Faculty, I know individual faculty, some have done have offered you different things through the course or after course for you all to get together and know each other. I'm thinking more of a school, what we can do as a school. So we are working on that. We're trying very hard to get that going. And then as far as the school otherwise is concerned, in terms of just where we are vis-a-vis our health as a school, we are going to be visiting with the state legislature in January, February, because our state meets every 2 years, and that's the time when they actually set the budget for the university. And when they set that, it's a 2-year budget. So we're doing a lot of work now to ensure that we are whole and that if they do have cuts in the budget, we can absorb those cuts. So I'm pretty sure we'll be okay. We'll be okay unless they do a draconian cut, then we'll have to think about that, but that's really not in the cards. So we're preparing for that. And then we're preparing for the transition to the interim dean, David Springer, who you'll love. He's a great guy. He's head of the RGK Center now, and he'll serve as interim dean starting in January. So we're making all of those transitions so there won't be any hiccups in terms of what you see in the programming and the support and services you have. So with that, other than that, we've been told, we've had our building looked at several times. There's periodic reviews of our building in terms of whether or not it's COVID compatible. And so far we're okay. We haven't had any major, citations. And believe me, they look at a lot of things, including refrigerators. It's a major review. But Amy Miller, who's our chief budget officer, who's really moved her office down to the first floor right in OSA, and she's got her office looks out to the parking lot. She says now and then, she says she knows it's not intentional, but now and then students are not keeping a social distancing. So I'm just asking you to please, if you're in the building, please do that, because really there's only three things we can do: mask, social distancing, and wash our hands. And so, so far we've been very good. We haven't had any issues in the school. So with that, I'm just going to leave it with the time we have left for you to ask any questions that you might have. I don't see any hands.
No hands.
I think
Dean
everybody.
Evans, may I actually ask you to speak a bit about the small group meetings you've been having with students? Maybe some things you've learned?
Yeah, so I've been having, especially with first years, because first years don't have any, they don't have experience in not only the physical plant, but with the community. So what I've done is these virtual breakfasts with the first year students. And it's great. They're like anywhere from 4 to 8 at a time. We tried and also really tried to help us randomize these so that we would have students who are not in classes together. Sometimes we've been successful. And sometimes we haven't, so students know each other, but it's good. Some have known each other outside of the classroom. So the idea there is just to give them an opportunity to talk to me about how they're feeling, what's going on. And so I've learned a couple things. Some things are like everyone else in this kind of situation, which is why I wrote the note to everybody, is that we're just in a very disruptive time. It's a time that there's a lot of uncertainties. And students expressed to me concerns about like going home for Thanksgiving. You know, do they travel? Do they not travel? You know, if they're going home and they have relatives that might be at risk, what do they do? You know, there's a lot of unknowns, things that we always took for granted is like, okay, this is going to happen and I can depend on that, are no longer dependable or certain. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty there. Also, what was going to happen in the spring semester, and the spring semester is going to look like the fall semester, simply because we don't believe there's going to be a vaccine ready to make sure everybody's okay and we can get back into a building. And even if we just social distance, it's going to be difficult. So what we're trying to do now, though, is work with the faculty and see if some of the faculty, and not all can, because several do have underlying conditions or have young children or have elder parents at home, if we can do more of in-person types of things at the school, so we can accommodate either small groups of students or classes that want to take place in person either all the time or periodically. So we're learning through this semester how faculty are trying to have in-person kinds of experiences either in the classroom or outside the classroom. So we're going to be looking at that for the spring. So I've heard that, I've heard, you know, students wondering about that, but most of it, and then I've heard about the election, you know, that people obviously are, all of us are very concerned about the election, both in terms of can the people who need to vote, vote? Will people have access to voting? Will there be surety that we have a free and open election? And will we have some certainty once mail-in ballots are counted? So all of that is uncertain. And 4 years ago, when Mr. Trump won, we did have some meetings after that to talk about what that meant, mostly in the sense of, okay, what happened? How did it happen? Where did you see some problems, so we can learn from it from a policy and from a civic participation perspective. So we're trying with this year too, we're trying to get, and we sent things out for you to, you know, participate in some of these events that help you understand a little bit more from experts about what the election might mean, what we might do. Also for you to express your opinions about what it means to have freedom of speech and what it means to get out the vote. So we're trying to get you more and more involved. And then after the election, we're going to wait a week because again, I don't think we're going to know on election night unless it's a huge landslide, which could happen. History has, we've been there before. Larry Sabato, who is an expert on elections and presidential power and the balance of power between the three branches, the Supreme Court and the legislative branch and the executive, he's going to be in the arena the week after. So I'm really hoping all the students will come and listen to what he has to say. So I do know that's something that's on your minds. And I do hope all of you are being active in helping get out the vote, or that you're talking to people who don't agree with you so that you can understand why. They don't agree with you. What are they basing their decisions on? What's their perspective? And for the international students here, I would really love our students to talk to international students to get perspective that you often don't get American to American. You know, you need to see people from other societies, other cultures, looking at who we are and what we do, and sharing their perspectives, not only of us, but you know, their own cultures and how they see this. So I'm hoping everybody takes us seriously in the sense of not just voting, but helping others vote, and thinking about watching what's going on with our election and what's going on post-election. So.
Dean Evans, there's a question in the chat box from Claudia. Claudia, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. I was just wondering what updates there are on ongoing curriculum and DEI reforms.
Yeah. So there's 3 degree programs: the PhD program, the Masters of Public Affairs, and the Masters of Global Policy Studies. The Masters of Public Affairs went through a major review over the last 3 years. They are undertaking another review. Actually, there's going to be a meeting, I believe it's next week, of the body that is actually the governing body. The governing body of these degree programs are called Graduate Studies Committee. They're made up of all the faculty who teach in that degree program. They're meeting to look at whether or not they have sufficient DE&I, not only in the curriculum, in all the curriculum and all the courses that they're undertaking. Hold on a sec. I'm sorry. Let me just send this.
Do you want me to chime in?
No, it's okay. So, you know, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What was I
talking
saying?
about the GSDs and where the
Yeah.
impact GSD is?
Yeah, and they're looking at that, and they're specifically looking at a new policy development course, which is specifically looking at social justice, institutional racism, our structures, our institutional structures in government, our foundational documents of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, etc. That's MPATH. MGPS is undergoing a major review, and this is from soup to nuts. They hadn't done this like Masters of Public Affairs simply because they were a newer program, and they're looking at the same thing. They're looking at all of their curriculum, their assignments, etc. And the PhD program is going through the same review. So we have, out of the 3 degree programs, 2 degree programs are going through a major total review, and everything's up for grabs. And DE&I is really an important component of that. And Vicki DiFrancesco Soto has been working with each of the GSCs to ensure that they understand what we mean by DE&I content in assignments and in readings, etc. So that's where we are on that.
Thank you. Can I ask a quick follow-up about if there are any reforms or efforts going on in the hiring processes? Because I know there's going to be an interim dean and always new faculty and stuff. So I was wondering if that's part of the plan.
Yeah, great question, Claudia. Here's where we are on the hiring plan. Because we're a small school and because we're highly subsidized by the university, our tuition, the tuition that our students pay, do not cover the cost of the school. So we're subsidized by the university. So one of the things that we have to do in order to maintain this is we have strategic planning, you know, for hiring. So 4 years ago, we put in, a plan, and what we were given was we had to make an assumption about attrition. And we assumed we'd have 1 professor a year ago, in which case they gave us 1 professor a year back. So it was supposed to be on a yearly basis or every 2 years, depending on how, that lag time was. Well, what we did is we front loaded all of the hires. So instead of waiting for 5 years, because we're still in year 4, we took all those 5 hires and brought them in. So we got Raisa, we got Jaggernath, we got Jima, and we got Gordon Abner in that group. So we hired at the assistant professor level in that group. Now we're about to go into another strategic plan because that's a 5-year program. We still owe the university 2 positions from the first 5 years. So my goal is that we're doing some things to help them forgive those 2 positions and say, sorry, those people did not retire. And then we're going to be looking at what areas we need to hire faculty in. We're not going to be hiring 5 again at any one time. It's probably be 1 or 2. And when we look at that, there'll be decisions made on the area. So whether we need another person in public finance, or whether we need to bring somebody in who does health, those will be things that we'll look at. When we do that from the very beginning, as part of our strategic plan and the university strategic plan, diversity comes in right at the beginning. Like, where are you going? And the dean then has to look every step of the way. The dean is responsible for looking through it and making sure that we've been paying attention to diversity, that we have a good diverse pool. So with this next group of hires, there's a whole protocol now at the university and at the school to really make sure the recruitment, the actual decisions about who comes in, and the vetting of those candidates, because candidates get vetted. So there's that, and then I'm asking if they would help us. Again, beggars can't be choosers, but I'm asking them to help subsidize perhaps some postdoc positions where we can bring in faculty who are not really ready to be hired, but who are postdocs, and we can improve our diversity. Gordon Abner, I brought in as a postdoc. And then when we were able to open up a position, Gordon was able to fill it. So those are different ways that we're trying to, with the limited capacity we have to expand, those are some of the things we're doing.
Thank you for the update. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a good question. I'm glad you asked it.
So if there aren't any other burning questions, I'd actually like to switch
Yes.
now to the focus groups.
Oh, is it possible, Dr. Weaver, had my hand up and I had a gentle
Sure,
follow-up?
yeah. I'm sorry, Raymond, I didn't see you.
No worries. It's super hard with Zoom, I know. Dean Evans, thank you so much for being here, meeting with us. Specifically, thank you all for recording this conversation. We've been chatting student groups about how some folks can't be here, and I think this is a great opportunity to improve access for folks. So thank you. Just a quick question real quick about the dean search. Dean Evans, I'm super fortunate to have been nominated and elected by my peers as the new diversity and inclusion officer for GPAC. And so in that role, it's definitely my responsibility to make sure that student voices from so many communities are heard in these important decisions. And so I just wanted to know, like, how do you plan to ensure that student voices and that the needs of every community in the school are considered in the search for the dean? I respect Dr. Springer very much. Seeing him every morning, having quick chats over coffee was great. I also am wary of this kind of world of interim appointments that it seems to be building around us. So I just want to know what are we doing to make sure that student voices are heard in the dean search next year? And thank you again for being here, ma'am.
Okay, great question. So here's the what I know. The interim dean was selected because that interim dean will not be a candidate for the deanship. Okay, so interim deans, and that's the same thing at McCombs, where you're picking somebody to be at the school in a leadership position while a search goes on for the dean. I have no influence on the search, and I didn't before when they stopped it. But most searches, and this will happen, this is how it usually goes. The provost is the operational authority with regard to the dean's search. So how that all works out will go through the provost office. The school, they will put together a team of people that will be made up of faculty from the school that are chosen by their peers. They will have other deans, 1 or 2 other deans, from other schools that would be chosen by the provost. Sometimes the provost will put somebody on there who's a vice provost. It might be somebody vice provost for students or a vice provost for business. And there will be an alum on that. And all the time that I've been at the school, the foundation, the LBJ Foundation, they'll send a representative and they'll pick that representative. What happens then is there is the search committee then is supposed to meet with all kinds of groups. And I believe there was a student, there's 2 or 3 students Now this is, well, 3, okay. So that constitutes a search committee. Then that search committee goes through protocols where they talk to different stakeholders. They look at the candidates, and what happens with that is that search group nominates 10 or 11 candidates out of the entire pool. So there's a lot of discussion about who those people are. Those people are brought, I don't know if they're going to be brought, they'll probably be brought remotely. They used to call it the airport interview, come in and out. Those people will all be interviewed by the search team, the committee. They will come down to 3 or 4 candidates. At that point, those candidates will visit with the community. They will visit with students. They will visit with faculty. They will visit with staff. They will visit with people in the tower. You will have a voice, not only in the search committee, but you all will have a voice to meet the people that are being brought in and talk to them and question them. And, and you'll be asked to give your feedback. That's how it worked when I became dean. But the ultimate decision of who will be dean is the president of the university. Okay.
Thank you so much for all of that information.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go so you can get into your breakout rooms. We can hear, what's going on with you all. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to hearing the feedback from Kate. Take care.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So Raymond, just a follow up on that. If the search committee is the same as what it was appointed last spring, I believe the 3 representatives are Sophie Morse for the PhD program, Josh Turkle from the empath program, and Z Edwin from GPS. And they would be the people that you would work with to get student voices heard on the search committee. Okay. We're now going to switch. Any other comments or questions? Because those were really great questions. Thank you, Claudia and Raymond. I think we're ready to go to the focus groups. So what we're going to do is Rachel has assigned you randomly to a particular group, and we're going to have 3 prompt questions. So each group should first pick a moderator to make sure you get through all the questions. We're going to give you guys about 25 to 30 minutes. I like each group to have a rapporteur, and that is a note taker who's then also going to verbally report out on the key punchlines of your conversations when we reassemble around 1 o'clock or 1:05. Because we're tight on time, I would also ask the note takers to prepare something to submit to me afterwards so I can collate a report on this for the dean and for the faculty. Please, when you do so, anonymize things as appropriate because we don't want to put students in any kind of uncomfortable situation. So anonymize on that front. If you need to say something about specific faculty, that will also be coming to me individually first, and I can deal with these as I always do in a one-off fashion. I've been having plenty of conversations with faculty to follow up on feedback I've been receiving for you, and that is my role. So on that note, Rachel's going to do the breakouts, but first I'm going to give you the questions. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see that? So it should be 3 questions. Okay, excellent. The key question here is whether or not it's going to show up once you go to your breakout rooms. No? Oh dear.
I don't think it will, no.
If we leave it up, Kate, they could always, like, someone could pop back in and check it,
Okay.
just in case.
What
could
about the chat
also-
box?
Yeah,
They
you
won't
can-
see the chat either. We could put this in a Google Doc and send the link to everyone.
Okay. Or if you could all bring your phones out and take a quick picture of the 3 questions. It's probably the easy thing to do, or a screenshot. But 3 general questions. What has been your experience with remote learning during COVID? What has worked well? What has worked poorly? And overall, how would you assess how well you're able to learn in this new environment compared to previous semesters? Second question is we want to learn more about best practices around inclusive learning in the classroom. It's because we've got very proactive discussions going on with faculty as well as training sessions. And we really want to start to focus on now is figuring out whether the small things or big things that faculty are doing that are working well to create inclusive environments. And then 3, if you have any ideas about how to better build student engagement and sense of community during this time when we're all social distancing, We really want to be able to think outside the box, presumably this Zoom box, to figure out how we can better create a great environment for you all. So those are the 3 areas. We will also be following up these focus groups with classroom discussions, hopefully not a survey, but some form of other means of giving feedback to you all and receiving feedback. So on that note, I will also send this around. Actually, Rachel, if I'll send it to you, and if you could send it to everyone who registered, that would be great.
Sure.
Okay. Is everyone ready to go to breakout rooms? We'll reconvene at 1:05. Okay. See you in 25 minutes.